It's one of the most iconic video games in history. For nearly 25 years, the PC version has been hailed as one of the most important titles in gaming, arguable as the definitive first-person shooter of the 1990s. And for over 20 years, the fastest version to speedrun was the PC version, until 2018. This is the story, how Doom GBA became the fastest version of Doom in history. Since its inception on December 10th, 1993, Doom has featured an in-game timer, which encourages players to complete its levels as fast as possible. Starting in 1994, speedruns of the individual maps became very popular. Sharing files over the internet, called demo files, could play back data, exact movements players would input in real time. Doom players started keeping track of these records on various speed websites. And for over 20 years, speedrunners like Panther, Adam Heige, STX Vile, S6 Kana, Cubeface, King Dime, Force Shock Blast, and arguably one of the greatest Doom players of all time, Zero Master, would push the game to some of its lowest times possible. Most of these players agreed that ultra-violence was the basis setting of the game to play on, which is the fourth difficulty and the one right under Nightmare. On Nightmare difficulty, the enemies have more health, shoot faster, and respawn after a certain amount of seconds. Ultra-violence retains some of the same difficulty, but does not have the respawning enemies feature. It wouldn't be until the mid-2010s where the any percent, or lowest difficulty speedrun, would become an interest to certain people. And I want to clearly stress that the ultra-violence category is much more difficult than the any percent is by a long shot. Certain enemies just don't spawn on the lower difficulties, certain enemies shoot slower, and enemies have lower health altogether. Doom Guy can take more damage overall, takes less damage from enemies based on lower difficulties. Some of these players who have done ultra-violence could switch over to any percent and get some excellent times, but some see it as just too easy, and would rather have the challenge difficulty of more enemies, a more set advancement of gameplay, which gives a great sense of reward to the people who are accomplishing such crazy runs. Returning to 1994 again, the Doom developers knew that they had to strike gold while it was hot. Doom would become one of the fastest selling computer games in history, and just the demo version alone was installed on over 15 million computers by the year 1996. But at the beginning of 1994, the goal was to have Doom running on a home console port by Christmas of that year. John Carmack, the mastermind developer at id Software that had coded Doom, Wolfenstein, and plenty of the id Software titles beforehand, would once again be the lead programmer on the Atari Jaguar version, with American McGee redesigning more basic geometrical versions of the levels that the Jaguar could handle better with its processing. The port would see the complete removal of the Cyber Demon and the Spider Mastermind. Altogether, 4 maps would be removed completely as compared to the PC version, 3 of them being replaced entirely. One of the secret levels, E2M9, would now become the final level in the game, to replace the Spider Mastermind. Players were clamoring to buy a computer at the time to play Doom, but anybody who couldn't afford the hardware had to resort to console ports, released later at the end of 1994. During the Atari Jaguar version's development, id Software was approached by Sega to release a version of Doom on the upcoming Sega Genesis attachment, a 32-bit processing expansion, the Sega 32X. Both versions saw a development time of less than 11 months each. Worked on at about the same time. However, the Sega 32X version would release before the Atari Jaguar port, by just 1 week, in November of 1994. This version was considered by many inferior to the Jaguar port, as enemies only faced one way towards the player. 17 levels were available compared to the Jaguar's 24. But it is noteworthy it had a great frame rate, but terrible music that nobody wants to ever remember again. The Atari Jaguar version was the same exact maps. Great frame rate for the time, a little hectic with the controls though, considering all the buttons on that damn controller. But easily one of the best versions you could get of Doom at the time, without buying a computer. One sad part though, there's no music within the levels. All of the music that plays in-game is saved for the between screens and the final credits roll. By Christmas of 1994, Doom was finally available on home console. Sales and reviews were mixed, as the 32X was an ill-fated console from the get-go. Doom was one of the release titles for the 32X, and arguably one of the best games released for the expansion. The Atari Jaguar was an ill-fated console as well, and Doom would become one of the best-selling games for it. However, this version would become really rare and expensive as time would go on, easily fetching hundreds of dollars on eBay with an Atari Jaguar included. Now you're probably asking yourself, what the hell does all of this have to do with the Game Boy version? This is the Atari Jaguar and the 32X. Like, this has nothing to do with a version released almost 7 years later. But just hear me out, because the source code for these two particular versions becomes very important later on. Coming into 1995 would be another interesting year for console Doom. Doom for the PlayStation 1 would release with the same source code. New maps were included, along with Doom 2's campaign, and is arguable as the most replayable version of Doom on a home console. The lighting was refixed, a lot of different sound effects and music used in this port ended up making it an entirely different experience. 1995 also saw the release of Doom on Super Nintendo. This version used an entirely custom engine, the Reality Engine, developed by Randy Linden at Sculptured Software. The game had a lot lower frame rate, ran like dog piss pretty much, but it was still remarkable that a console such as the Super Nintendo could run a version of Doom with 22 maps in all, and is actually more accurate to the PC version than the Jaguar map set. Doom on Super Nintendo would also include the Cyber Demon and the Spider Mastermind, technically becoming the first almost full version of the game released on home consoles, along with the PlayStation version. 1996 would see the release of Doom on 3DO. This port is just piss poor. It's got a really interesting history behind it. Becky Heineman has done an entire Q&A on her experience working on the game, and I recommend checking it out. It was worked on in less than 4 months, I think. It's pretty much the most incompetent port. No purpose. There's no purpose to it. But it uses the same source code as the Atari version. So just to talk about that and get it out of the way. 1997 would see the release of Doom 64 from Midway, using the same source code modified from the Jaguar version. An incredible experience, brand new levels, the same sound effects as the PS1 version. It's a glorious game to play. Recommend checking it out. Once again, using the same source code. 1997 would also see the release of Doom on Sega Saturn. It's a piece of crap compared to the PS1 version, and that's all you need to know. But the same source code once again, if you're noticing a little bit of a theme here. Finally, in the year 2000, a company known as David A. Palmer Productions would secure the rights to work on Doom on the Game Boy Advance. Lead programmer Matt Hopwood, over 7 months, would build a completely custom Doom on the Game Boy Advance, using no source code as a basis. 8 months into its development, John Carmack would rediscover the Jaguar source code, and Activision and id would force David A. Palmer Productions to port the Jaguar version just a few months before it was supposed to release, scrapping an entire build of Doom and putting it on the cutting room floor. The version was up and running at a reasonable frame rate, but the developers decided to add a static and dynamic lighting mode. Static, removing any and all lighting effects, and dynamic, adding the lighting effects back in, except on objects and enemies. By October of 2001, Doom GBA would release to mixed reviews. 140,000 copies of Doom GBA would be sold worldwide in Europe and North America, never seeing a Japanese release. Critics praised the fact that they got the Jaguar port running on such a tiny console. However, the lighting and depth perception was really hard to get used to for some. The game also showed noticeable slowdown as enemies and area on the screen increased. The visuals were also called into question, as a lot of objects appeared blurrier than most versions, which was obviously due to the Game Boy Advance's limitations. The Cyber Demon and Spider Mastermind were once again removed, as this was the Jaguar port exactly. In the mid-2000s, a tasser named Icy would discover Doom GBA had out-of-bounds glitches, and would eventually write out a task route with these glitches in mind. In March of 2017, Electra and Infernape would become the first two runners of Doom GBA on the Speedrun.com website.
Alright, 1837. That was awful, but whatever.
On what?
Doom GBA.
Oh, God.
It really hurts your eyes. Holy shit.
His run was completed March 24th, but on March 27th, during the verification period, another runner, Pro Infernape, took the Episode 1 record with a 10:57 time. Pro Infernape would return to improve their Episode 1 time again with a 9:02 in May of 2017. The two runners would become moderators of the board and established Episode 1, 2, 3 individually, and Episode 1 through 3 as a full game category, with an any percent and a nightmare category. Over the year, various runners would join up to show that Doom GBA could average 8 levels per 5 minutes. JRM HD91 became the first runner to submit all 3 episodes on an any percent category, and set a basic establishment of times for each episode to start.
They just need to get speedrunners as game testers, and then we'll figure it out.
JRM would secure the Episode 1 world record with a 7:30 time and submit an Episode 2 7:20 on June 25th, 2017.
Good. Ooh, this could sub 6. 5:56. Let's go.
Submitting a 6:15 Episode 3 world record on June 26th, along with the first full game run, a 20:56 for all 3 episodes in the any percent category. This was played on the lowest difficulty at the time. The game had definite room for improvement, with a lot of the walls being really sticky at the corners and the enemies just outright stopping you in a lot of ways. JRM would hold the Episode 1 world record for only 3 days, before TB 303 would come in with a 5:57 Episode 1 world record, and this would become one of the longest held records in the entire game's history. The 5:57 proved that the game had tons of room for improvement and could be pushed even lower. Almost 5 months later, nobody had run the game. I just want to make things clear, I actually owned this version back when it was brand new on Game Boy Advance. I had a history with this game. I had just started speedrunning in like October, set a couple of world records on Soul Calibur and some arcade games and stuff, and I loved the Xbox version. I played it on PC, obviously, but this was just like a quirky version to just kind of run and experiment with. And so I set my first world record in this game with a 1954 Episode 1 through 3 any percent.
Oh my god, are you serious?
So by December 3rd, I held every submitted board in the game, Episode 1, 2, 3, and the full game any percent, with a 1704 by that point. But then TB came out of nowhere and pulled off an Episode 1 527, which at the time for me was completely unbeatable. It just proved that the game had even more to push. And then finally, on December 7th, TB submits a 5:01 Episode 1 time. Still the fastest glitchless Episode 1 in the history of this game. On December 11th, Depravity would take the full game world record with a 15:40 time. This is still the lowest glitchless time for the full game in the history of the game. Depravity is currently the world record holder for Doom on PC, with the lowest time being a 13:41 on I'm Too Young to Die or any percent. And this is only including the first 3 episodes of the initial release of the 1993 version of the game. My lowest glitchless time by this point was literally off by like 5 seconds, so the game was really getting pushed to a point where it was just more so luck with enemy-based movements and just getting like a couple of the tricks first try, like Mission 4, Jump, just a couple of other things we had discovered at the time which made things go a little bit faster. You play the game on static lighting instead of dynamic lighting to make it go faster. There was no such thing as like out of bounds or anything like that at the time. And we'd been building like a list of glitches and stuff to try and figure out with this game on the Console Doom Discord. Because at the time, it was only like less than a minute off of world record on PC, so it was really looking like this game could be pushed beyond, like ridiculously beyond. Icy joined the Console Doom Discord. He had actually figured out many years ago that there were out-of-bounds glitches in Doom GBA. And it's almost like a fairy tale, like someone just joins in and is like, hey, you guys know about this glitch? Why aren't you guys using this glitch? You use the rocket in like a 90-degree corner while stepping backwards. The rocket pushes you out if you're playing on difficulty 2 or higher. It turns out in the original source code for the Jaguar version, John Carmack had removed a certain amount of coding that actually checked for an object's placement in the level. So this glitch can in fact be reproduced across all of these different versions of Doom.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
TB becomes the first runner to use Out of Bounds with an Episode 2 December 27th, 2017. It really pushes the game immensely. We're talking entire levels that would take like a minute or more. 15 seconds now. It made it crazy. It just pushed this whole game. We were working with glitches that had been documented by only so few people in 20 years. 1 month after Depravity's 1540, I had worked the game to where I would be using a couple of these glitches to go through the entire game and not die, and sure enough, we were able to sustain a 1445 time with 23 levels.
Oh my god, dude.
And so like, sub 15 was over already, with just the first time we had gotten through the whole game without a bounds in mind. I created God %, which was like a cheat category where you could type in all the cheat codes, not have to worry about dying and conserving health. And it was really just to test the full optimization of the movement and the glitches throughout this entire game. And this is what helped me break every single level in this game, was practicing this way. No deaths, absolute full 100% optimization. And I started finding stuff every single time I started playing this. We got to a 1302, 1147, 1134, and this is all within like 2 weeks. I secured every board for a time. We're talking every single board. I was able to practice all these rocket jumps and get really good at them. Got a 1006, 946. Became the first person to complete any version of Doom in 13
That's
minutes.
the first 13.
And it was looking like we could get to sub 9 with God %, which finally ended up happening. 835, 805. You just solved the entire thing in real time at the bottom of the screen in less than 8 minutes with a 752. Running this game with God % in mind, I discovered the ghost wall trick on House of Pain on January 17th, 2018. This trick allows you to return into bounds without using another rocket, which is really great for the any % because it made so many tricks possible to skip entire levels that would take over a minute in real time. The ghost wall involves strafe running at max speed into a wall. If you pull out the fist and look at it at a particular angle, the collision fails and lets a Doom guy go straight through the wall. Ghost walls can be really specific and really tricky to pull off. It could be possible to sub 11 the entire game with a ghost wall trick first time, every time in the any % run. With my current best time and over 4,000 play attempts, my percentage chance of getting a first try ghost wall in every single map that it shows up is less than 0.25% chance. Like any Doom run, the any % begins on E1M1 and then goes on to E1M2 and E1M3. These levels are done the exact same way as they have been done since the conception of the speedrun. Looking at certain walls can improve certain speeds and frames, and you actually end up saving time in certain hallways by just looking at a wall and strafing down it. Level 4 includes the first trick in the speedrun, and was the first trick to be added to Doom GBA. You can skip the blue key entirely and perform an SR50 jump over a gap at the end of the level, which involves looking at a certain angle and holding forward and strafe, with the fastest possible time of 15 seconds. Recommend picking up the rocket ammo at this point, as it comes in handy during the speedrun later on. Level 5 is now one of the more complex levels in the game, and the first level in the run with Out of Bounds. Players do it the traditional way by grabbing the yellow key and going down to the secret area over here and grabbing the blue armor to sustain 200 armor and 100 health, or at least over 85 health to be exact. Players then head over to the elevator over here to the secret room with the teleporter, and rocket jump using angles by the teleporter room. There's an invisible wall outside blocking the exit room, which is actually the blue door right here. Jump right through the wall using a ghost wall trick outside, with the fastest completion of less than 30 seconds. In level 6, players can choose to forego or gather health while doing the level the traditional way by grabbing the red key, taking out all of the shotgunners here and dropping down to grab a radiation suit. The radiation suit guarantees you will not take damage on the lava, or toxic waste in this case, while you're over the lava outside of the map. I'm grabbing health right here so I can set up for the next level, which involves rocket jumping through another wall. But for now, you're going to set up by grabbing the blue armor here if you want to set up the trick for the 7th level. It can be done with 100 health, but you have to have at least 101 or more armor or a blue armor in your registry. Rocket jumping from behind the blue orb will bring you out into the void. Turning back and forth, or firing the gun, or punching the fist will get you through the invisible walls that are outside and bring you right over to the exit. Level 7, one of the most complex levels to do in the game, involves doing it traditionally to start by grabbing the yellow key on top of the lift, clearing out all of the enemies in hopes to sustain 100 health and over 101 armor, as it becomes key later on as you travel down the hallways, clearing enemies to ensure you don't get hit, to finally get over to the corner you need to be in. When you reach the corner to rocket jump out, you will have to ghost wall and also drop to another plane, which is invisible outside of the map. This will bring you onto the same plane as the final section of the level, where the switch usually is for the zombie room door. Hugging the wall and going over towards the room with the 2 zombie men inside of it, you can line up your angle and ghost wall straight through the wall to successfully complete the level in less than 45 seconds. At the beginning of level 8, kill all of the enemies to save frames, and grab the blue armor. You then go as quickly as possible to this corner on the left-hand side of where the bosses spawn. There is a particular circle on the wall with an orange spot on it where if you shoot it every time, you will double clip through both walls and successfully skip the bosses in episode 1. The level can be completed in 20 seconds. This is the beginning of episode 2, or level 9, E2M1. This level is currently done the traditional way, however there is a route to sustain a 19-second or less time, with the absolute lowest version of this route exceeding 20 seconds. However, the frame-perfect tricks involved with this route make it very unlikely to have a successful chance with a 420 time episode 1 or below. The level can average 28 seconds or just above. Level 10, or E2M2, is the next level to include a rocket jump, along with a blue power armor. Players can choose to rocket jump from right behind where the blue power armor spawns, or choose the safe route going over to the room past the light in the cross section when you come into this part of the map. Jumping out from behind where the blue armor is gives a chance of doing a double ghost wall and inadvertently failing the entire run accidentally. But it does save 5 seconds. Level 11 starts immediately with the room to the right to restock any health or ammo, specifically grabbing the radiation suit to not take lava damage when you're outside of the map, which may eventually be removed from the route entirely. Gathering enough health up to rocket jump behind a corner in the room where the shotgun spawns, grabbing the mega armor and then proceeding to curl around and ghost wall through the walls outside of this map, which are relatively easier than other ghost walls, grabbing the blue orb from outside of the level and completing it at the exit switch right next to the blue orb. This level can be completed in less than 35 seconds. Level 12 involves rocket jumping from the door right behind where you spawn at the beginning of the map, ghost walling outside of the map, and then going right through the wall in front of where the yellow key door spawns, using a rocket jump for safety if it fails to go through on the first few tries. In Doom GBA, the door in front of the yellow key can be opened, unlike other console ports. Running across to the secret area to grab the plasma gun here and station yourself up for the exit of the level right here. Clicking the button and making sure to get on the platform before it's raised all the way up, you can sustain a 30-second or less run. Level 13 is done the traditional way, but the goal in mind is to reach the end of the level with the setup amount of health you'll need to rocket jump in level 14. A blue armor can be found at the end of the level, which only wastes 4 seconds to grab if you really need it. Level 14 starts off with trying to get to the switch to open up the rest of the map. Jumping into the left corner of the switch room and going out of bounds will find the exit directly to the left side of it. Filling up on health here is recommended. You need to build up enough health and armor in both level 14 and 15 in order to skip level 16 and 17 in less than 15 seconds both. Level 15 gives the player a chance to have an invulnerability orb at the very start of the map right here. Gathering on the health right behind the Baron of Hell there can at least give the player 84 health. The player will travel downward towards the hall with the room full of pinky demons and rocket jump in one of the corners to find the exit on their right side. Level 16 starts immediately with a health orb and a mega armor, setting up for the skip in this level and level 17. Rocket jump inside of the Pinky Closet to find the exit on your left side. Level 17 is the start of episode 3, and you're simply going to go in and go to the left door, go all the way up here, and rocket jump right through the wall in that corner to reach the exit. Level 16 and 17 are the two fastest levels in the entire game, which both can be completed in 5 seconds each. Level 18 includes going up the stairs and making a left, essentially ignoring any enemies in the level, grabbing the blue key, and going downward to grab a health orb at the bottom right here. Heading back up, you're going to jump across and grab the mega armor by sustaining an SR50 jump across the gap there. Level 18's quickest time is 19 seconds. Level 19, House of Pain, was the first map to have ghost walls discovered on it. You want to rocket jump from behind the portal and grab the invulnerability through the wall. Rocket jumping again outside, grabbing some health, rocket jumping through the side with the exit port. The level used to take over 1 minute and 50 seconds to complete, and can now be completed in 10 seconds or less. Level 20 has 3 different routes, but this is the most direct, rocket jumping out of the right side of the opening area and turning left or right or using the fist to get through the void, ghost walling through a bunch of different walls, right through the wall in the exit room, a 12-second or less run. Level 21 Mount Herberus is the most straightforward level in the entire game. Just grab the blue key and go straight to the exit. There's really nothing behind this level. Trying to go out of bounds actually loses time compared to the traditional route. And now for the absolute hardest trick in the game, and arguably the biggest run killer. Level 22 Limbo has 3 rocket jumps in a row, and with less than 189 health and armor is unsustainable by a player. Grabbing the blue armor by traveling down the hallway here to open the Pinky Closet there, and getting the Caco Demons to run out away from the health orb while grabbing it. Move into this corner and rocket jump out, and then head right over to the portal near the yellow key door room. Once you're in the yellow key door room, line up on the edge in the corner with the window, rocket jump through the wall, and click the switch behind the yellow key door to raise the final platform in the level. You'll then run at this wall and ghost wall for the final time in the entire run. A perfect run of Limbo could be completed in less than 30 seconds. Level 23, Dis, aka Fortress of Mystery for the Doom PC players, head across the plus-shaped room and open a secret wall to reveal the final room in the game. Open the door on your left with the switch on the wall, grab the blue key, get the red key, get the yellow key, and open the yellow door to find the final portal in the game. And now the any % run has crawled under 12 minutes. We got to 11:43, 11:36, and currently the world record is an 11:26, crawling closer to a 10-minute possible real-time game. 10:39, the lowest possible game at this very moment. Which could still keep going lower. I mean, we've just discovered line depth deletions where if you walk in certain places outside of the map, it deletes certain walls in certain areas, and that's just saved 10 seconds on one level. And that's just been discovered in the last week. We're finding stuff monthly for this game. But like I said, it includes getting frame-perfect tricks first time, every time, to even get below 11 minutes in real time. But I started wondering what it would look like for in-game timer, like people used to use for the original Doom on PC. Sure enough, the in-game timer for the current 11:26 comes out to a 10:05. Almost sub 10 minutes for 23 levels. For over 20 years, the fastest version to speedrun was the PC version, until 2018. It's 2 minutes faster than the Any% on PC, with a 1341 held by Depravity, contended by Mooman. That could go at least 30 or 40 seconds slower. But now the biggest question for Doom GBA's future is when the first 10 will be played. Not if it's possible, but when will it happen? The first sub 10 in-game time is less than 6 seconds away, with the first sub 11 RTA time less than 27 seconds. Will it happen before Doom's 25th anniversary? You can follow me on twitch.tv/Alexo670 to see the fastest runs of Doom in history.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.